Hey, burger babies!
Hey, Mickey.
You know what they say, mo money, mo problems. Bob Belcher needs mo money, and the producers of Bob's Burgers have mo money in a love note to fans brand new or old.
Yeah, money.
Rich.
The little show that the creators thought would be cancelled after one season has now joined The Simpsons in taking their animated adventures to feature scale, and they've brought a cross-section of Wonder Wharf with them.
And then we're going to sit back and we're going to watch.
How much made it in and what went into it? Well, I'll tell you. Spoilers ahead. No, really, it's a spoiler movie.
And blast off!
With a show that's lasted as long as Bob's Burgers, it is bound to collect a number of inside jokes or references for fans to collect and for the writers to feed off of and play with. Better than many, Bob's Burgers has achieved a balance between the growing world of Wonder Wharf and to have a show that could be picked up by a new viewer at any time. For the transition to the big screen, it was important to co-writers Lauren Bouchard and Nora Smith that the movie be rewarding to longtime fans while still being a movie that can be watched by someone who has never seen the show.
Ooh la la, hello, bonjour.
To that end, they said they wanted to put everything you needed to know about the cast in the first 5 minutes, mostly thanks to a catchy, elaborate musical number. Now, that being said, there was still a healthy back and forth between the movie and the series. Since the crew had to make the movie and the 11th and 12th seasons at the same time, there was a chance to do a little setup for the movie. Most dramatically, and yet easy to miss, is the deteriorating nature of the sidewalk outside of Bob's Burgers. Gradually, over the season, it would get worse and worse, until eventually characters walking on it in the background would trip over it and then get up and point at it. It wasn't until the sinkhole was revealed in the Bob's Burgers trailer that eagle-eyed viewers put the pieces together. Star Trek II Wrath of Khan was a standout in the series that elevated a seemingly minor one-and-done character from the original series to epic villain status.
He's so beautiful.
It's the same formula that Bob's Burgers has used by having the villain's villain come from the series who has only appeared in 2 episodes. Calvin Fischoeder is the eccentric and often difficult landlord for Bob's Burgers and everyone else in the Wonder Wharf area. Now and then, he'll be seen with his less accomplished brother Felix, and in Roman Bobaday and Copa Bobana, we got to meet their cousin Grover. While Calvin inherited his riches and Felix squandered his inheritance, Grover actually has to earn a living as the family's lawyer. It's not a role or position that earns him any respect, which leads him to the convoluted plan for revenge that provides the backbone of the movie. Louise's first suspect in her attempt to prove Calvin Fischoeder innocent, save the restaurant, and prove she's brave is Calvin's brother Felix. While above Grover in the pecking order of the Fischoeders, he is firmly under Calvin, who is now largely responsible for Felix as he has squandered the inheritance he got. When the kids go to search Felix's place for the matching cufflink, his mansion is a treehouse. They learned that in the episode The Odor Games, where Calvin tried to pit the tenants against each other with a water balloon fight in order to avoid a tenant rent strike.
Hey, Bobby, you're going on a rent strike.
The kids had discovered the stash of balloons in a treehouse mansion that Felix lives in because his sleep apnea and aggressive night flatulence has resulted in him being moved from the house. Seen briefly in the movie over a video call, Felix's girlfriend Fanny was first seen in the 2-parter Wharf House and World Wharf II, trying to do her best to outdo Citizen Kane's Susan Alexander. Okay, so for those that I might just have lost, you know the black and white GIF meme of a guy angry clapping? That is Charles Foster Kane trying to force a crowd into applauding the concert that he arranged for his mistress Susan Alexander, whose singing was more on par with comically bad American Idol audition. Like Anderson, Fanny likes the finer things Felix will buy her, and she fancies herself a singer despite evidence to the contrary.
Oh my god, I just almost started dancing.
Thank you!
While Felix has planned to build a recording studio for her where Whale Wharf is, she tries to kill Calvin, resulting in her arrest. So, really, you can understand why Louise would go to Felix as a suspect so quickly. Now, when Louise needs some clues to clear Calvin Fischoeder of his charges, she goes to an old friend, Mickey the bank robber. Except now he's not a bank robber, he's a carny. When he met the Belchers, though, in Bob Day Afternoon, he was in fact trying to rob the bank across the street from Bob's Burgers. He fills in at the burger stand and Bob fires the kids before finally landing the gig at the wharf where he works during the movie. Now, while Mickey has only had a handful of appearances since Bob Day Afternoon, another character introduced in that episode has become more of a recurring character, and that is Sergeant Bosco from Robbery, which is just as cool as Homicide. Maybe better.
I know, I was just thinking the same thing.
From that point on, Sergeant Bosco becomes the Belchers' primary interaction with the police, including a speed dating incident where he almost arrests Linda for stealing his gun. So it makes sense that the kids turn to him when they can't get the rest of the police to listen. Earsy Rider is an episode that introduces Louise's attachment to her rabbit ears when they're stolen by the bully Logan. Another tee-up from that episode is the biker gang, the One-Eyed Snakes, that start eating at Bob's after attending a funeral for a member next door. The gang helps Louise get revenge on the hat-stealing bully. In the same episode, Critter and Mudflap from the gang have a baby that helps them smooth things over with the neighborhood. Later, in Roaming Bob-a-Day, they pay forward the birthing help they got in Earsy Rider by helping a member of the Easy Beavers deliver a child. So really, Sergeant Bosco's stakeout of their clubhouse wouldn't have worked, even if he had remembered to take the light off of his car. Little girls are well known to generally be big fans of horses. Now, I think that they're giant monster creatures plotting our demise by luring us into a false sense of confidence, biding their time and waiting to strike, but they say that makes me paranoid and delusional.
Yeah.
Get it?
Tina is big on horses and finally gets her parents to send her to horse camp in the episode The Horse Riderer. What Tina learns in that episode is that real-world horses just don't live up to the expectations her imagination has dreamed up. Specifically, her dream fantasy horse, Jericho, who's able to talk to her in her fantasies. Jericho returns to his Mr. Ed ways in the movie, with Paul Rudd returning as the voice of Jericho as Tina once again grapples with fantasy and expectation versus reality, this time with Jimmy Jr. What is an amusement park without a mascot? That's what makes it a theme park. For Wonder Wharf, that mascot is Dizzy Dog. He was last seen in statue form when it was stolen from Wonder Wharf in the episode I Get Psychic Out of You. One of the carnies joins Dizzy Dog, chasing down the trio through the wharf. He was committed to his job, though, because he kept that big, heavy, awkward, heat-collecting helmet on.
That's right!
Of course that's right, he just told you.
Yeah!
The term experimental pop music might seem like an oxymoron when pop music is literally popular music, but then there are bands like The Sparks, or They Might Be Giants, who take pop harmonies and experiment with what could be considered pop, either by mixing and matching or unconventional instruments, or really whatever they come up with. This is the genre that Gene Belcher has embraced with his trusty Casio keyboard. The outlet for that musical experimentation is the band the Itty Bitty Ditty Committee. Don't say that too fast. It started off when Gene's sisters joined him performing in front of the store by sliding their straws up and down in the plastic lid to make that low squeaking sound. You know what I'm talking about. Eventually, they're joined by regular-sized Rudy and Peter Pescadero, later adding Daryl into the band. Disagreements over the direction of the band, as happens, ends up splitting up the traditional instrumentalists from the found objects ones. In the end, however, the band comes back together because it was more fun that way. As Louise starts to spiral further, worrying that she's a baby and not really brave, it sparks the return of her fantasy council of toys that includes the frequently occurring glowworm-style toy, Kuchi Kopi. In the episode Louise, her attachment to the toy is tested. When Linda is sent to fetch Kuchi Kopi from the bathroom for a sick Louise, the glow bug ends up falling in the toilet and getting wet. Tina suggests putting it in the oven to dry it out, but they left it in too long and left it half melted. In a fantasy sequence where Louise deals with her anger over her favorite thing getting melted, she talks with the melted Kuchi Kopi as well as an intact one. It turns out that the melted Kuchi Kopi was a bad Kuchi Kopi, and the good one convinced her to forgive her family. Good and bad Kuchi Kopi make a return to sort out Louise's bravery issue. Nora Smith told Showbiz Junkies that she was most interested in answering the questions the fans had rather than hiding Easter eggs. And there is no bigger question fans have than what is the origin of Louise's signature rabbit ears beanie. Behind the scenes, the creators have been happy to reveal how the rabbit ear hat came about. Primarily, it was inspired by a character from the manga Tekonkinkreet that features a character that wears a bear ear hat. Bouchard liked that it created the dual impressions of a child and an animal and hoped to create that same cognitive dissonance, associating her with another notorious trickster who is prone to escalating slights, Bugs Bunny. Originally, it was revealed that they'd answer the in-world origin of her ears in Season 12, but that reveal was moved to the movie when she learned that it wasn't to grant her bravery, but to reward it, and to connect Louise with the grandmother she never met. Oh. 20th Century Fox has found itself now residing in the House of Mouse along with Lucasfilm, The Muppets, and Marvel. Disney, of course, before becoming famous for owning everything, earned its reputation on cel-drawn animation, starting with their first feature-length effort, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. After falling out of the feature animation game for a while, the Disney animated movie came roaring back with The Little Mermaid, followed by hits like Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King. During that time, however, another thing that Disney had gobbled up was perfecting a method for animation that would shortly take over animation. After Pixar's Toy Story, the march toward computer animation was on. The last major hand-drawn feature Disney produced was 2009's Princess and the Frog, and the last hand-drawn movie was 2011's Winnie the Pooh. Since Fox is now part of the Disney empire, Bob's Burgers is the first hand-drawn movie released since 2011's Winnie the Pooh. Moving from TV to film carries with it the expectation of spectacle. Generally, that money is spent on an elaborate 3D set piece or a pricey star. But Bouchard and Smith instead went with hiring tons more animators. That not only allowed them to complete a 2-hour movie when they normally make 22-minute episodes, but it also allowed them the scale that they don't have the time to use on a show that has to crank out 22 of those 22-minute episodes. The end result is the Wonder Wharf All Skate, which was the opening musical number where all of the characters set up the starting point of their emotional journey while doing choreographed dances with many of the recurring characters of the series, even if they wouldn't factor into the story. Now, one thing that starts to stand out when watching the movie is not just the smooth movement of the characters in greater detail, but also the strange and hypnotic dance routines the characters do. Bouchard wanted to include the kind of larger-than-life dance numbers playing off the ability of co-director Bernard Derriman to animate dancing particularly well. The source of the moves, however, comes from co-writer Nora Smith, who is a master of what Bouchard calls silly good dancing. Smith recorded lots of footage of her unique dance steps to be worked into the choreography of the dance numbers. Bouchard said that he avoided the Busby Berkeley style, referring to the legendary choreographer known for choreographing elaborate dances that could only exist on film. He noted that animated projects go for it because you can use the same animation multiple times in the same shot to infer a larger scale. Taking a page out of Bob's book, to promote the film, Disney teamed up with Impossible Foods for a special Bob's Burgers-inspired hamburger. The hamburger was dubbed the Get This Plant Party Started, which includes vegan mayo and cheese with lettuce and a splash of sriracha for heat. The burger was handed out during the premiere at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood and was offered at the Disney Springs AMC in Orlando over the opening weekend. Bouchard also took inspiration from his creation to promote and celebrate his first feature film, specifically Gene's burger suit that Linda borrowed and modified with a bikini, a change that Gene approved of. While everyone else was walking the red carpet in their red carpet finest, Bouchard posed gleefully wrapped up in a burger. Outside of programming blocks, there's not generally a lot of cross-promotion with different projects, especially when they're on entirely different outlets like Bob's Burgers and The Boys. The Amazon Prime streamer that takes a satirical view of the contemporary superhero world is set to release their own third season on June 3rd, but they took time out of their own relentless promotion to celebrate the release of the Bob's Burgers movie. In a tweet, they congratulated the team for the movie's release and, for an extra measure of fun, listed a handful of boys-themed burgers of the day, including the Avocado Train and the Pepper Jack Quaid Burger. Tina may have had other flings and romances, but nothing has managed to replace her unspoken desire for the largely clueless Jimmy Jr., the son of Bob's cross-street rival, making their love have a hint of Romeo and Juliet. With the voice actor for Jimmy Sr. no longer on the show, Bob and Jimmy Sr.'s rivalry has cooled, but Tina's love for Jimmy and Jimmy's butt have not. While the movie makes clear the journey of longing Tina has, for people who have been watching since the beginning, Tina getting the nerve up for that kiss was years in the making. The creators have said that the movie affects the storyline going forward, but the real question is, what will it do to the opening sequence? Will the sinkhole be added and the reopening banner added? Will Wonder Wharf restore the car attraction? That looked fun.